This is Albert Mitchell's Daytime Answer Man program at your service. A program that answers your questions and helps you out with your problems. Anyone can ask a question about anything, and everyone will receive a reply. Some on the air, all by mail. And now, here he is, your Daytime Answer Man.
Good afternoon, and happy Thanksgiving Day to you all. Now for today's questions.
Here's the first from a Bridgeport, Connecticut listener. How long did it take the Pilgrims to eat the first Thanksgiving dinner?
A whole week, even with the help of the Indians.
And a Freeport, Long Island woman asks, what kind of a fish is a skipjack?
The skipjack, or pomatum...
High Noon in the East brought forth live coast-to-coast programs on the major networks. All CBS stations like WCBS in New York, WBBM in Chicago, and KNX in Los Angeles broadcast Wendy Warren's news program. ABC broadcast interviews with travelers, and singer Kate Smith took to the air on Mutual.
That nurses the amaryllis along very nicely.
At 12:45 p.m., while CBS was broadcasting Our Gal Sunday, and NBC a Thanksgiving food conservation program. The Answer Man took to the air over WOR in New York.
A Scarsdale, New York boy wants to know if they had folding chairs back in the 18th century.
Oh, yes, and before that, folding stools, which were called fald stools, and were not unlike the present-day camp stool.
A bride living on Staten Island writes, I would like to make my first Thanksgiving Day dinner as nearly like the first one served by the Pilgrims as possible. Can you tell me what they ate?
Well, the main items of food served at the first Thanksgiving Day feast were turkey, Indian pudding, and pumpkin pie.
A letter from a Larchmont, New York listener reads, as I remember it, the first Thanksgiving was a celebration of a bumper crop the Pilgrims had harvested. Am I right? And what was the crop?
You are right. The crop was 20 acres of corn and 6 of barley and peas.
A note from a Mamaroneck, New York housewife reads, please tell me if the early colonists learned how to make cranberry sauce from the Indians, or if the Indians learned how from the white settlers.
Neither. Each knew how before they met the other. When the Pilgrim settlers arrived in this country, they found the Indians making a cranberry sauce with maple syrup, while the people of Europe had learned to make cranberry sauce with sugar from the Scandinavians.
Each quarter-hour installment was filled with all kinds of information. New York's Answer Man was Albert Mitchell. The series was sold as a concept and developed in individual markets. Joe Mansfield was the Answer Man in Los Angeles. As many as 2,500 questions came in each day. Co-creator Bruce Chapman and his staff answered almost 1 million pieces of mail per year.
Now back to the Answer Man. A Brooklyn woman asks, is there such a thing as a turkey with all white meat?
Yes, white turkeys produce all white, or at least all light meat.
And a Pelham Manor, New York student inquires, did the people of Europe have much knowledge of Arabia in the 18th century?
No, their knowledge of Arabia was mainly based on the works of the early Greek and Latin writers, such as Herodotus, Strabo, Pliny, and Ptolemy.
A Prospect Plains, New Jersey housewife wants to know how she can protect some shelves of canned and preserved foods.
You might tack a piece of oilcloth on the edge of each shelf so that it hangs down over the contents of the shelf below. This will keep harmful light and heat from the canned and preserved foods.
This question comes from a Philadelphia listener. What was the worst blizzard the East has ever suffered?
Those who survived it say the blizzard of 1888. The blizzard blew from March 11th to March 14th, with New York and Philadelphia being the city's hardest hit. The wind at one time blew the snow at a rate of 46 miles an hour.
It was the Great Blizzard of 1888 that played a tremendous role in the creation of wireless telegraphy, thanks to so many downed telephone and telegraph poles. Wireless telegraphy is what became radio broadcasting.
Now back to the Answer Man. A Paoli, Pennsylvania listener asks, was the very first Thanksgiving proclaimed on the 3rd, 4th, or 5th Thursday in November?
On the 2nd Thursday in December. The first Thanksgiving was proclaimed by Governor Bradford to be held on December 15th, 1621.
And a young bride living in Scotch Plains, New Jersey asks, could I make candied sweet potatoes without using sugar?
Oh, yes. For every 6 medium-sized sweet potatoes you wish to candy, use a half cup of honey, maple syrup, or corn syrup.
Here's a question from a Mount Vernon, New York woman. Do you know that poem that tells us what to be thankful for on Thanksgiving Day that you could read for us?
There are many good ones, but Thanksgiving by Ellen Tupper seems to answer your question the best. It goes, for health and strength, for home and friends, for comfort in the time of need, for every kindly word and deed, for happy thoughts and pleasant talk, for guidance in our daily walk. For all these things, give thanks.
At 1:15, while WCBS was broadcasting Ma Perkins, and WNBC, Mary Margaret McBride, WOR was live from Franklin Field in Philadelphia for the annual Cornell versus Penn football game. Penn was in the midst of an 8-game winning streak against Cornell. They won 21-0 before a crowd of 80,000, which included President Truman. It was the final game of an undefeated season. Broadcasts of football games were fast becoming part of Thanksgiving entertainment tradition.